Welcome to the Talking Free podcast. As the girl who has always been told she talks too much, can speak with a mouthful of marbles underwater, and can sell ice to Eskimos, I have found the perfect platform to have my say, freely. I am here to share with real people, having raw conversations about authentic stories. It is a place where you can feel safe discussing anything and everything. These stories will make you laugh, cry, debate, wonder, intrigue, and get curious about life as you talk free with Trudy Marie. Please note that the following podcast may contain discussions or topics that could be triggering or distressing for some listeners. I aim to provide informative and supportive content, but understand that certain themes may evoke strong emotions or memories. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed or in need of support while listening, I encourage you to pause the podcast and take a break. Remember that it is okay to prioritise your well-being and seek assistance from trained professionals. There is no shame in this. In fact, it is the first brave step to healing. If you require immediate support, please consider reaching out to Lifeline on 13 11 14 or a crisis intervention service in your area. Thank you for listening, and please take care of yourself as you engage with the content of this podcast. Welcome to episode 2 of the Talking Free podcast, and this one is called Resilience Triumphs. And I'm with a special guest here, Chantal Kelly, who is coming in all the way from New Zealand. Chantal is a former WA police officer of 15 years who resigned when she was a senior constable, and I believe she used to work in the forensics division. So welcome, Chantal.
Oh, thank you for having me. So exciting to be on your first guest podcast. So thank you.
I'm excited to have you. I'm so excited to hear your story. So let's get started and tell me where you would actually like to start your story.
I thought I would talk about my health issues that I suffered in 2021. Yeah, it's a bit of a longish story, but I suffered a stroke at just 37 years old, and there was a lot leading up to the day. I had taken a vaccine, and within 10 minutes I immediately got sick. So I hadn't left the waiting room that you have to wait in to see that you don't have a reaction. So I had an allergic reaction straight away, rashes and fevers, and I was in the doctors for a few hours before they released me. But by that night, I was suffering really high fevers of over 40 degrees. Over the next 3 weeks, I had flu-like symptoms, returning rashes, high fevers, extreme migraines. They were so unbearable, vomiting, so much more than that. And I know there were days that I would lay in bed and I thought I was going to die. Yeah, I was that sick. And I say this because there's just so much to it. And then I haven't really shared this before, but so it was a Tuesday night and I had to go to court to give evidence as a forensic police officer. And that night I just was really tired and my eyes were itchy. I don't know, I just was rubbing them all the time and I just felt a bit weird. So I told my boyfriend at the time that I was going to go to bed. And so I slept okay, and I woke up to my alarm and one eye wouldn't open, and I just thought it was my allergies again. So I had a shower, and then one eye wasn't closing, so one eye wouldn't open and one eye wouldn't close. And I just took an allergy pill, got ready for work. And it's interesting the things that stand out in your mind and you remember, but I remember so distinctly the feeling of putting my mascara on my left eyelashes. It was I can't describe to you, but it was just the most bizarre feeling. And now that I realize what happened is like I'd lost sensation in that side of my face. But at that point, I hadn't realized that that was what was happening.
So was that the beginning of the stroke or the symptoms of the stroke?
Yes, yeah. So I drove an hour to work that morning while still doing this because I, have caught. And looking back at it, it was quite a funny experience because my colleague and I, we were good friends, and she pretty much saved my life. And yeah, so we were having coffee, waiting for court, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't feel the best, but I'm all right." So I'm eating my toasted sandwich and having my coffee, what you do before while you're waiting for court. And she goes, "Your your your face is drooping." And I I remember like turning and looking in the reflection of the window, and I'm like staring at myself. I was like, nah, I'm all right. So, I'm a police officer, she's a police officer. We're highly trained in recognizing these things. And nah, I'm right. And she goes, no, I really don't think you are. She goes, I think we need to go to the emergency room. And I was like, oh, and then your mind goes to sitting for hours in the emergency room and waiting for 3 hours before you're even seen, and then waiting another 3 hours before the doctor comes. I was like, I really am not feeling doing that. She goes, no, we're going.
Did you think in that moment also that you were kind of, I suppose, dismissive of some of your symptoms? Because as police officers, we're trained to, like, going to court is really important, giving evidence is really important, and you're trying to go through your own statement in your head of what you have to say, and you're probably so concentrating on that you kind of were dismissive of your own
I
symptoms.
think because when I was really fit and healthy, and I walked 50 kilometers a week and drank green smoothies and ate really clean, and I've never drunk alcohol in my life. I've never smoked a cigarette, definitely never tried drugs. I lived the healthiest lifestyle, and people would tease me about it. Then, yeah, so I didn't believe that there was anything seriously wrong, and that there could be anything wrong, because how could there be? And anyway, so we ended up driving to the emergency room. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be the worst day. And I turned up, and it was during COVID. So, the lady was at the front with the thermometer to take your temperature. And she saw me and she goes, can you just stick your tongue out? And I thought she was joking. So I stuck my tongue out, and I was like, oh, is this like a new COVID test or something? But I was like, what, are you serious? She's like, yep. She goes, oh, just come here, come sit down here. And then by the time I gave the nurse my Medicare card, it was like just all these people flocking wheelchairs, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so I went into the back room. Like, I didn't even wait 30 seconds in the waiting room. I was like, this is not normal. And you start kind of going, oh, like, what? And at this time, I'm still not believing. I just thought, oh, maybe I cut the line because I'm in uniform or something. But I was like, okay, we'll just, we'll just go with it.
Those
Don't have to
police
wait
advantages.
So get out the back, and a neurologist showed up, and I'm still like, why is this neurologist here? Maybe he's the only doctor. So I'm still not comprehending anything that's going on. At this point, I'd lost, so I couldn't get out of the wheelchair because all my strength was lost in my left side, in my legs. So I couldn't even, and it happened so quickly. And then, so the neurologist was doing all these tests, putting sugar on my tongue and salt and testing my arms and all sorts of things. This was the moment I freaked out. He goes, there's no easy way to say this. And, as a police officer, nothing good ever follows that. There's no easy way to say this. And yeah, he was going through all these possibilities and signing me up to do all these tests. So I thought I was still going home in a couple of hours. So I called my then boyfriend, who come immediately, and then I got admitted to hospital. At this point, I hadn't had my actual stroke yet. So I stayed in overnight, and the neurologist that I had, thank God I got him, because he told me the next day that he got so much crap from his colleagues, the nurses and doctors, going, why would you admit a Bell's palsy patient? So everyone else thought that I had Bell's palsy because 37-year-olds don't have strokes. But because of the loss of the strength in my arms, he knew it was something else. And he told me, I knew it was something else. I knew it was something more. And I wasn't listening to them. You weren't going home. And thank God I had him, because anybody else would have sent me home and I would have had my stroke, God only knows where, probably driving to work. So I stayed in overnight, and then it was the next morning. I got up and I went for a walk around the ward, got a coffee, come back to bed, and I then had a shower. Whilst I was getting ready for turning the water on, my boyfriend called, and I think this call actually saved me getting any permanent damage to my brain, because I was so focused on calling my boyfriend back. So I was in the shower, focused on calling him back. I've got to call him back. I've got to call him back because he's got to come pick me up and take me home. And my body started waving. I can't even describe it. It wasn't vertigo. It just started waving side to side, and I couldn't stand up anymore. And my right side had pins and needles, but not the start of when you get pins and needles, kind of like in the middle or at the end when it's at its worst, and it's kind of like all jellyish. And I was still focused on calling my boyfriend back. And I was also looked at the emergency button in the shower, and I was like, I really should press that because something weird's happening. But I'm like, but I got to call my boyfriend back. And if I press that, then the nurses are going to delay calling my boyfriend back. I was like, oh, nah, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'm just dizzy. And then afterwards, when it stopped, I don't know how long it went for. I think once you're in that kind of panic, I don't know, everything seems longer or shorter. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I did, before I called my boyfriend back, I saw a nurse walk past. I'm like, oh, something weird just happened. And I explained to her. And again, this is at about 6:30 in the morning. And they called the doctor, and then the doctor came. I'm guessing straight from home. He got called in. And that afternoon, I was told after my MRI scan that the main artery to the left side of my brain had ruptured, and the stroke had been caused because of the rupture and obstruction of the artery layers. So yes, I was transferred to the stroke ward that afternoon, which was a very, very scary experience. And from then on, I was monitored every single hour, morning, afternoon, night, every single hour, asked questions about what day it was, who I was, who the Prime Minister was. That made me nervous because I never knew half the questions that they were asking. And I was like, if I don't get these right, they're never going to let me out of here. So yeah, that was the stroke part.
Wow, that's just like to be a perfectly healthy, fit police officer that you were, and to then go through this medical emergency that just had you not know what the hell was going on, and to almost want to dismiss it as like, no, I'm okay, I'll keep going to work. And not only did your friend and colleague like save you by taking you to the emergency room, and then you happen to get a doctor who fought for you because he knew that something was wrong, and to actually go through that at such a young age must have been Like, when you look back on that now, how do you react to that?
Now, looking back, so I ended up having a lot of physical issues. I did end up getting a lot sicker as well. So I ended up having so many nutrient deficiencies, which led to my liver, gallbladder, and pancreas becoming so infected. I ended up in ICU and I had to have my gallbladder removed. And so this was a period of like from August to December that I was so sick. And 5 weeks, I was in so much pain that they described that as 10 times worse than childbirth. And I suffered 5 weeks straight of that where pain medication didn't do anything.
Wow.
And because of my stroke, I was on blood thinners and a platelet type medication that if I cut myself, the blood didn't stop. I couldn't heal myself. And so to operate, they had to fly in a machine and a special anaesthetist from Sydney to monitor whether I was going to have a stroke under sedation. And so they could look after my blood and healing and stuff there. That normal operation to remove a gallbladder is about 25 minutes, and mine took 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Wow. And at any time during this whole process of when you were sick, did you ever think, and it's a horrible thing to say, but did you ever think that maybe I'm not going to leave this hospital?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because when I was in the stroke ward, I was monitored every hour, and they told me that I had to be in bed all the time. Even going to the bathroom, I had to use a bedpan because that caused me so much distress. So I was able to get permission to go to the bathroom, but I had to walk very, very slow. I wasn't allowed to get my heart rate up, and I wasn't allowed to get my blood pressure too low or too high because it could trigger another stroke. So during the stroke ward, I had an angiogram, and I was supposed to have a stent put into my artery in my brain, and they did all that testing while I was awake. One of the scariest things I've ever done. But they deemed it to be too unsafe where the location was, so I wasn't able to get the stent. So they were relying on my body, because I was young and healthy before, healing itself, but that would take 2 years. So for the first 6 months, I wasn't allowed to walk too far. For 3 months, I wasn't allowed to walk at all. And after that, I was allowed to walk around the house. And that was it. So every weird sensation in my body, I had a panic attack, anything that resembled any remote feeling of what my stroke felt like, I freaked out. Because of what I was told, in that if you do this, you could have another stroke. If you do this, you could end up with permanent brain damage. If you do this could happen. My nervous system got so dysregulated that walking, swimming, running, everything become fearful for me. My brain thought that if I did anything, I was going to die. So it's been 2.5 years now, and it's taken me up until now to be able to, I'm able to do everything that I've done before, but I'm still scared of some things like in the gym. So yeah, that's pretty much my experience there.
Wow. I mean, that's like, just listening to that episode, like I'm sitting here with like tears in my eyes going, how do you get through something like that physically, and dealing with that, like not even being able to walk and being bedridden for 3 months, but then not being able to leave your house for like a further 3 months because they're concerned about your physical capabilities. So inside of all that, how did you deal with it with your mind is my first question. And then what sort of support did you have to help you deal with all of that?
So my boyfriend was unbelievable. So this is another thing, like people think of illness as physical, but there's so much more that comes after that people don't see. So at the time that I had my stroke, my boyfriend and I had only been dating for 4 months. And so at that point, he hadn't even seen me with no makeup on. And here I was with my face paralyzed, drooling out the side, can't swallow. Um, yeah, it was a lot. And it would have been so easy for anyone to just leave.
Talk about test a relationship in the early days.
But he didn't. He came to the hospital the first day. Within an hour of getting the call, he had to come from a suburb an hour away. So he got on the train because my car was still at work. And he was there every single moment. He left after he got kicked out. He was there at 6 o'clock in the morning every single day, didn't leave till 10 o'clock at night. Every single day I was in hospital. His work was amazing. They gave him time off. And when I came home, so part of the reason I was able to come home was the condition that he was able to watch me for the entire time. So he took time off work and used up all of his leave. He looked after me basically, and he did everything. And then he ended up going part-time in his job. So, and then the elderly neighbors took care of me when he was at work, and he looked after me when he was at home.
Wow, and you had no other family or anything in Perth at the time?
No, no, no. My parents and my brother do live in Perth. I just don't have a relationship with them. So,
Understandable.
that was the only support that I had, and he really stepped up.
Yeah. And is he continuing to step up?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why I married him.
Yeah, and what a beautiful ending like to that sort of experience is the fact that, you know, after 4 months of dating, sees you at your worst, supports you through your worst, and then literally says until death do us part by exchanging rings. Like,
Yeah.
that's what a hero.
And even with my paralyzed face, and I was crying every single day, and I thought, I don't know, as I was ugly, or, I wasn't beautiful anymore. He told me every single day how beautiful I was, and he didn't care if it didn't get better and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very lucky there.
Wow. You are extremely lucky, and what an amazing guy to support you through all of that. So back to like how your mindset was, like, yes, you had him there supporting you, but how was your own mindset of dealing with not just, I suppose, the physical issues, but mentally that must have been a huge struggle for you.
Oh, absolutely. It was one of the toughest things I've experienced. I can't really describe the emotions that you go through. You completely lose your sense of identity and who you are. And the biggest struggle is not comparing yourself to who you were before and what you could do before. I was extremely, extremely active. I horse rode every day. I had a horse. I walked 50 kilometers a week. I ran my own business. I worked in my career. I renovated my house. I was always busy, and I loved it. And to go from that to being stuck in a bed and, yeah, not feeling beautiful anymore, not knowing who I was anymore in this new thing. And when the doctors tell you that you have to find a new normal, that you're probably not going to get back to that, and you can't do certain things, and that things that are in your future, like having a child, is probably unlikely. And if it is, it's very high risk, because I still can't and will never be able to do chiropractic work. Anything that manipulates my neck, whiplash is a risk. Giving birth, vomiting, coughing, sneezing can rupture the artery in my brain again. So, there's those losses that you have to grieve. There's lots of grieving who you were and the things that you can't have in your future that you thought that you would. So yeah, I I'm never the type of person to just sit there and do nothing and wait for somebody to fix my problems. So from the very first day before I got transferred to the stroke ward, my face was paralyzed, and I was like, okay, so what could this be? And I researched the Bell's palsy and stroke, and it was all nerve damage. So I was like, okay, well, what rehab can I do? What exercises can I do? Because I couldn't sleep because it's too stressful. So at 2 a.m., I'm researching physio, herbs to renew my nerve. And so I like sending messages to my boyfriend. Part of the reason why I needed to call him to bring certain herbs to so I could take in the hospital. Don't tell the nurses and don't do this. But yeah, so I did that, and establishing a routine was extremely important to me, because when you don't have your work anymore or all the things that you did, I found having nothing was depressing. So I just set really small goals for myself that I could do every single day. And that started with having a shower, washing my hair, doing the dishes, walking around the lounge room. And then over time, they obviously escalated, and I can't help myself. They turned into bigger goals. I remember when I could start walking again, I was like, I'm going to go up and down those stairs 3 times. And I did it, but my legs were shaking so bad. But along my journey, I shared everything on social media, and I got a lot of hate because of the reason why I got sick. But I also experienced some amazing messages. And because I posted about my journey to healing and the things that I did, I got messages like, I'm sitting here having my chemotherapy and I just wanted to give up today. And I saw you walking up the stairs in the video that you posted, and you were still so positive and you helped me get through. I had people contact me who were in stage 4 of their brain tumors and they didn't have very long to live, and telling me that I gave them hope. And so those kinds of things made it really amazing and kept me kind of going. So yeah, they definitely pushed me through.
Yeah, and it's in those moments where, despite all the hate, and I know because I saw during that time of reading some of the comments on your posts and stuff, of what you experienced, and going, how people can be so vicious and nasty to somebody who is really clearly suffering here, to know that there were those positive messages that you were receiving, that despite people going through their own ailments and their own medical issues, that you were this light in the dark, you were a pillar of strength that allowed them to keep going. But is there one thing that stands out to you as, if it wasn't for that, I don't know how I would have kept going?
I don't, I definitely had bad thoughts, but I'm very good at getting out of dark areas by like something I've learned and I've developed myself through hardships throughout my life. I've experienced quite a few. Is that so when you're in the situation, in the emotions, it's very, very hard to see the bigger picture. So in those moments, you have to deal with the emotions. And then because I've done this a few times and I've developed my own strategy, I can flick myself out, which is kind of like if you imagine zooming out and seeing the situation as a whole and focusing on what you can learn from it. You have to definitely deal with the emotions and the grieving process that comes along with things. You cannot avoid your emotions, or you end up with post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, and all those things.
Yeah, and do you think it was that some of that strategy and some of that being able to compartmentalize what was going on, with your emotions, came from being a police officer for 15 years? Like, obviously, you worked in forensics, and for those people who don't know, that you're the person who goes in often in a crime scene to have to analyse, and you're seeing some of the worst things in the world, and you probably seen through that time some horrendous situations. Do you think that actually helped you be able to overcome some of those emotional stresses during that time?
Absolutely. One of the biggest thing I learned as a forensic officer, sometimes you go into scenes that have so much to do and you're just like, oh my God, where do I start? So we learned how to break down a crime scene into sections. And so we would even label it A1, A2, A3, A4. And it's just about dealing with that section and then moving on to the next section. Because if you see the whole picture, it's just becomes so overwhelming. And that's what I did with my healing journey. I gave myself goals. And I remember when I started on back getting my physical strength back, I could do one push up. Not even great. I was shaking, falling over. I couldn't lift my legs up. I fell over a lot, but I was like, okay, well, today I can only do one. And again, you still struggle with that. Oh my God, I used to be able to do this. I used to be able to do that. Or when you go to the gym and you see people lifting these heavy weights, and you just have to remind yourself, I'm on my own journey, and my goal is just to do that little bit more than yesterday. And then eventually, like today, I look back and go, wow, some days you go, I'm not making progress, but you really are. And when you look back, you go, oh my God, I kept going. I did that little bit more. And after 2 years, I'm back to where I was before, almost back. But I'm still saying that I'm back.
No, and you're definitely back. I mean, given that from where you were to where you are now is, yeah, you're definitely on the road back. And inside of those little goals, is there one particular goal that you had that you possibly thought, this is never going to happen again? This is the one thing I have to give up that you're now able to do again?
Yeah, horse riding. Horse riding. I thought I would never do it. And then at the beginning of the year, when I reached a milestone in the gym, I was like, my next one, I'm going to go horse riding. I can do this. So I worked my butt off in the gym. I was like, for my 40th birthday, I'm going to ride a horse again. It was the day after, but I rode a horse, and my goal was to walk, trot, canter, and do a small cross pole. I walk, trot, canter, haven't done the cross pole yet, but I've ridden twice now, and I forgot how hard it was. So, like,
I'm not a horse rider and I've only been on a horse a couple of times, so I get how hard I think it is. But to hear you say that it's like it was easy as riding a bike before and now it's like something you actually have to think about. But wow, to actually have that goal like come to fruition and be able to do that when you never thought it was possible again.
it was very bizarre because I spoke about before how I was scared of walking and running and swimming and all those simple things. Horse riding, I wasn't scared of. So I don't know, it just naturally came back. And people say, oh, it's because you've done it so long, but I've been walking since I was 2. So I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it was the one thing that I got nervous slightly, but I think it was just normal nerves. And then it was just so natural. And my husband was there. He'd never seen me horse ride before. And he goes, I kept waving at you to take your photo, but you weren't paying attention. But I was just in this most amazing flow state that I wasn't paying attention to anyone except just being on the horse. So it was the best thing.
No, because you were literally reliving a dream that you never thought possible, and I would have been taking in every moment as well. So, congratulations on getting back to that point. And, you know, yeah, life will never be the same, but to actually have that part of your life back that obviously you felt so comfortable with must be like a huge relief.
Yeah, it's great. And yeah, as much as things can seem bad at the time, I really love the person that I've become because I've overcome all of those things, the strength that I have now and the way I view myself, the world and other people. I'm so grateful. It sounds bad, but I'm glad in a way that it happened because I've been able to become the person I've always wanted to be because of it. it allowed me to let go of so many fears, and just, yeah, it made me see a different perspective in life.
Yeah, so you never went back to policing, you resigned from WA Police. What did you do after that?
So, one of the biggest lessons I learned was in the stroke ward, and I was looking at a sunrise and reflecting on my life. On paper, I was society's definition of success. I had a career that they made movies about. I had a fancy 2-story house, a nice car. I traveled overseas. I had multiple university degrees. I had created a 6-figure brand and company from scratch as my side hustle. And so on paper, I had the most amazing life. Everyone saw me as successful. And I thought that I was successful until that moment. And I had this massive realization, and I didn't know it at the time, but the number one regret of the dying is that they didn't live a life that was true to themselves. And in that moment, I realized that I had been living somebody else's definition of success, because while I was sick, I didn't think about any of it. I thought about living in the country. I thought about creating life coaching programs. I thought about hiking, spending time with my dog. I didn't think about material things at all, or how much money I made, or how many degrees I had. It was just this really eye-opening thing. And I was like, oh my God, I've got it wrong. I've got it wrong. And it was that day that I gave myself permission to let go of other people's expectations, because I thought all these things would make me worthy and accepted in society, and people would see me as, something, because I grew up in a very poor family. So my life looked very different to my childhood. I just realized that I'd got it wrong, and you were always striving for the next thing, because you were waiting, if I just get the next thing, then I'll be happy and then I'll feel like I'm enough. But it was never enough. And I was extremely grateful, and I am extremely grateful for what I created, but it wasn't for me anymore. So I gave myself permission to envision anything I wanted, no limits, no money. Money wasn't a problem. And I wanted a small house in the country overlooking snow-capped mountains. I wanted to create life coaching programs to transform other people's lives. I wanted to spend time with my dog, go hiking. My husband is a professional golfer, and he's always wanted to be a pro on tour rather than a coach. So I envisioned him doing that.
So how does your life look now?
So my life looks exactly like that now. We sold everything, and we moved to New Zealand, bought the most beautiful block, and built a very small cabin. That was an interesting conversation, because my husband and I, we both sat down and go, what was your favorite house? And we had like the nice house. We had a 2-story house. We had, whatever we wanted really. And we both loved our 1-bedroom apartment, our first ever house, and it was our favorite one. So we just have a small 1-bedroom. We have 2 tiny houses type thing, but yeah, one's the living area and one's our bedroom. So, but yeah, I would never ever change it for the world. Even if I won lotto, I would never change it. I love it. So that was definitely a massive lesson, and a lesson for everybody listening. Just ask yourself, am I living my definition of success, or has this been passed on to me by somebody else, like from your parents, from society, from your teachers? Like, because so often we get told, oh, we have to go to school, and then we have to get the job, and then we buy the house, and then we have kids, and that's the idea of success, or the Australian lifestyle. That's what we're supposed to do, but is it really what you want to do? And once you can strip back and find out what is true to you, then I don't know, I can't even describe it. It's like all the anxiety and all the stress just goes.
Yeah, and that's such an amazing lesson to come out of that with, is to, despite everything, that you've endured and everything that you've had to go through to get where you are now, to actually have, like, I love that. I love the whole idea of, yeah, whose version of success are you actually living? And I know even in myself, I'm in a similar, not physical journey to you, but a similar career journey, and, you know, discovering what it really is that's important to you and living out your true purpose in life as opposed to what's expected of us is definitely an amazing lesson for anyone to take on. So inside of that, what's next for you? I understand that you're working full time as a short-term means, but what's your goals? What's next for Chantal?
Well, while I was sick and in bed, I created a resilience journal that uses scientific principles to, just activate resilience that's already inside you, to teach you confidence, optimism, and how to see the lessons in situations. I really feel like resilience is the key characteristic for success that a lot of people don't talk about. And I've had that journal for a while now, but I realized that the journal can be used in multiple different ways depending on what journey that you're on. So I'm currently developing a course to go along with that teaches you how to use the journal from a level of adversity and overcoming challenges, as well as a level of self-actualization in shifting your identity. And it's about changing your language. And the language that you use is so important because your subconscious mind is so susceptible to suggestion that whatever you tell it, it can believe. And that, to use that in a positive to create your future self. So the idea is that when you go after your big goals and your big dreams, you need to shift your identity to that person who's already achieved those goals. And so it's just about teaching people how to change the language that you use, so you're not believing your current reality and you believe that your future reality is possible.
Amazing. And I think that that relates to so many people. They don't even have to have overcome such a huge life challenge or adversity like what you've been through. But even if it's somebody who just wants to take their career to the next level or find the perfect relationship or, you know, just have a dream come true or a goal come true, that this journal is, you know, maybe the first step in them taking to actually having that become actualized.
Yeah, absolutely. It's suitable for every situation.
Wow. And I will put the link to your website for that journal in the show notes. So anybody who wants to look at getting your resilience journal, they can. And they can also follow you over on Instagram at Chantal Kelly.
Yeah, _.
Amazing. Thank you so much for giving us a little glimpse into your story and what you've been through, but more importantly, I think what you've actually created, because I think that kind of unexpected life challenge to go from being a fit, healthy, career-driven, successful 37-year-old to go through what you've been through and come out on the other side, not playing a victim to your life and going, well, this happened to me and now this is going to happen, but to create a whole new beautiful life inside of that. I just commend you for your courage, your strength, your bravery, and most of all, your resilience. I think that's really epitomizes who you are.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
No worries at all. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Talking Free podcast today. If you have an idea for a future episode or a story you'd like to share, then please message me, as I am always up for real, raw, and authentic conversations. If you love what you are hearing, then please be sure to subscribe to hear all the latest episodes and spread the word to your family, friends, and colleagues so they too can listen in. If you are sharing on social media, then please be sure to tag me at _Trudy _Marie _ so I can personally acknowledge you. I am always open to comment about how these episodes have resonated with you. It would also mean the world to me if you were to leave a 5-star review to ensure the Talking Free podcast is heard by more listeners around the world. And remember, lead with love as you live this one wild and precious life.